Hello, it's Giant Tank 1400, and this is going to be my RWBY Volume 5 predictions. Now, by predictions, I don't mean like, oh, this is exactly what I want to happen or like to happen. I'm going to see like kind of like analyze like the plot of the different plots and kind of where they need to go, or what's the likelihood, what I think the likelihood of this happening. Now this is my opinion, so I'm definitely gonna be wrong on some of these things for sure, but hopefully I'll be right with some of them, particularly the things I feel like more strongly about. So let's start off with what we know. I mean, we know like the main focus is going to be in Haven and Mistro, and that's going to be like a gathering ground for people. We already know that RWBY and her group is already there, and we probably know that Yang is going there. I'll get more into Yang in a little bit. We know that Weiss is going there for sure, and we're pretty sure that Blake and her group is most likely going to get to Mistro / Haven at some point, because that's where like the leader of the White Fang is. Now back to Yang, we know she was going to Mistro and she had a choice to either go to her mom or go help RWBY. I personally think it's a highly likelihood that she's going to go help RWBY. However, I think it's even more likelihood, I think this will almost for sure happen, is that at some point during Volume 5, or by the time they get out of Mistro. When I say like Volume 5, I mean like by the time like the final arc of Mistro is over, which might be Volume 6, might be Volume 5, might even be Volume 7, probably not, but so when I say Volume 5, I mean like the whole Mistro arc. Anyway, I think at some point she is going to talk to her mother, Raven. Raven is pretty close to Mistro, and that logically is like the next part of like her plot. Yang's main plot is dealing with finding her mom, and in order to move that plot forward, the next step is to actually meet her mom and discuss things. There's probably gonna be a fight at hand, maybe not. It'll probably get a little bit physical, but it'll mainly be a fight arguing about things. I kind of see that. Now this is more me like thinking this will happen. This probably, I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but kind of the way I see it turning out is that Raven says things and Yang starts questioning things or whatever about her like beliefs, since she's not really a grounded character like the others. Anyway, so that's kind of what I foresee happening at Yang. At some point she's going to talk to her mom. I think this is almost, out of anything I say on this list, this is probably the most guaranteed thing to happen at some point during like this, and before like the Mistro arc is over, that Yang is going to have a talk with her mom, and or like she's going to communicate in some way with her mom. I mean, it's almost guaranteed at this point. I don't think it's going to be resolved per se, but I think this is going to happen. Now, dealing with Blake and her parents and son, like basically Blake's group, I think, now this could go a ton of different ways, but judging on the plot, I think there would be some kind of meeting with the leader of the White Fang, and then I think like Adam and Hazel, or like some important supporters of Adam, will be there, and they're going to be trying, I think Hazel's going to be there, and it's going to be these opposing sides, and the leader is going to have to make a decision about what side he picks. And I think this will end up to being like a fight, like a full-on fight at the end of it. What the leader chooses, I personally have no idea, because we know next to nothing about this guy. So, and I forget his name. Well, once we see his face, I'll be able to remember his name more. However, I don't think it's going to end well, and I think there's going to definitely be a conflict between Adam, Hazel, and then like Blake and her group as well. So that's kind of the way I see it. I do foresee a split in the White Fang. There will be members of the White Fang that will side with Blake's group, and there are members of the White Fang that will side with Adam's group. I do foresee that there's going to be a split in the White Fang at the end of this arc. Now, this could happen. Like I said, these are all like just what I think, and like judging on the plot. However, it does make sense. Now, dealing with Weiss, she's obviously gonna see her sister. I mean, that much is obvious. What that's gonna like exactly entail, I think she would meet up with her and Yang are probably gonna be the first to meet up with like Ruby and her group. I do think like dealing with Winter and Crow, I think they will put kind of their differences aside. There will be some conflict between them. We might get like a backstory of why Crow like and her have this like negative appeal of one another. Anyway, like I do think they'll put their differences aside and start to, because it's gonna be that whole thing like who can you trust kind of thing. I think like they're going to like because we got revealed so early that Lionheart has betrayed everyone and sided with Salem. I think the characters themselves, some of them, Jean, Crow, Winter, like some of them are going to see that Lionheart is kind of leaning towards Salem's side, if you will. And they're going to be this whole thing of who do I trust kind of thing. So I think Crow, Winter will put their differences aside. As for Weiss, I don't think she's going to have very important, like she's going to have some importance in this arc, some maybe character development moments with her sister, but overall like her main plot is going to happen when we get to Atlas. I mean, I think everyone knows that. I think that's obvious. She's going to be like the star of the Atlas like arc, if you will. That being said, I don't think she's going to play like that important role in this arc. I think she will have some character development moments and everything, but I think the arc's more going to focus on like Blake and her plot, Yang, and then kind of Ruby, Jean, and Ruby and Jean really. Speaking of which, speaking of Jean, actually, before I get into Ruby, which I don't think there'll be that much there. However, dealing with Jean, no, I don't know exactly where Jean is from, like what kingdom he resides in. However, we can pretty much nail like that it's not Vacuo. It's just not, because he has like a hoodie, and Vacuo is known to be hot, very, very hot. So I think if we can rule Vacuo as the least likely place he's from. Atlas and Vale still a possibility, but I think judging on like his family going to, I think the name is Shilon, which is kind of close to Mistral. I think it's kind of hinted at a little bit, not much, but I'm leaning more towards Mistral. And if his family is in Mistral, it's almost guaranteed that we will see him this arc. If his family's in Mistral, and we're guaranteed to see his family at some point during the story, because he mentioned that he had 7 sisters twice in the story, and you don't mention something like that twice, even just a comical thing, for like no purpose. At least one of these sisters will be important to whatever arc they are introduced at. And I personally think it's going to be this arc. However, like there's not like enough evidence for me to like, oh, this is definitely going to happen. I just think it's going to happen judging on the way things have gone so far. I mean, after this volume, the creator said like the story's going to last to 10 arcs, and this is the 5th one, so that'd be half over. I personally think the story's going to last 12 volumes. Sorry, did I say arcs? I meant volumes. 12 volumes. And I hope it lasts 12 volumes, actually. I hope it lasts 14 volumes, personally, because I think that would be enough to really get you down deep in these characters. However, I'll be fine with 12. I don't see it happening in 10. I think they underestimated how long the story's going to take, but that's just me. Anyway, that being aside, we're kind of running out of time. Well, we're about halfway done with the story, which means that we got to move along with Jean's character. I mean, he's obviously a very important character to the story. He has improved greatly, so we kind of got to get going in his character. That being said, at the end of this arc, I predict that Jean will either unlock his semblance by the end of the arc, or like whatever special ability, special power that's hinted that he has and I can get into a theory video of that. But Jean will unlock something at the end of the arc. Speaking of which, I think Ruby and Jean will be the ones actually to fight Watts at the end. That's my prediction, and kind of the reason I think that is because Watts is like more strategic than like kind of the other villains. It just appears that way. We don't really know for sure, but it appears that way. And Jean is more strategic than his strength is his strategy and his leadership. That's like his biggest strength. So I foresee that Watts will be like Jean's like main villain, whereas Ruby's like main villain is Cinder until it becomes Salem, which at some point it will. However, right now her main villain is Cinder, and I predict Jean's main villain will be Watts. That's just kind of like a prediction. This is kind of what I think, actually. I mean, I don't know for sure. It just seems that way. And if that is the case, then Jean is going to be important to this overall arc, and he's going to do something, have some kind of strategy that Watts doesn't predict will happen, because he seems like the type that will underestimate his foes, and I think that's what's going to happen. So he's going to underestimate them, and Jean's going to see the weakness of his plan and do something, whether it is to rise up the citizens of Mistral or whatever it is, to actually thwart Watts' plans. And I think Watts will win, but he will also lose, like at some point. Like at the end of this arc, I don't foresee him winning completely. I think he will lose a little bit, and his little bit of loss is because of him underestimating his foes and his like conceitedness. Because at the beginning of Volume 4, he kind of questioned, him and Hazel kind of questioned why Cinder was failed, like she was taken down by Ruby or whatever. And I think something's gonna happen. Like Jean's gonna unlock some power. He's gonna outsmart Watts. Something is going to prevent Watts from having complete and total victory. I think he will have some victory, but I don't think he's going to have complete and total victory on all fronts. That being said, I think Watts is actually going to kill Crow at the end of this arc. I mean, I think Crow has to die at some point, but I think it's going to be at the end of this arc. Maybe not. Maybe be down the line in the future. But it would be a good way to carry on Ruby's story arc of her not wanting her friends to be in danger. She is similar in a lot of ways to Blake and her reason to run away. At the end of Volume 3, beginning of Volume 4, we learn that she ran away to protect her friends, the people she cares about, the people she loves. And Ruby's kind of like we saw towards the end of Volume 4, that she blamed herself for like leading everyone towards Mistral on this journey that she didn't really know the true danger of. Jean kind of reinforced that she just gave everyone the courage to follow their own path, that they had their own reason for going on this. However, I don't think that's the end of that, and having something as tragic as her uncle dying will reinforce like these feelings, and she might want to go off on her own. I don't think she will at the end of the Mistral arc, but maybe she will. I don't know, but I do think Jean is at least going to try to stop her at the end. If this happens at the end, and I think it will actually end up turning out to be a fight, and I think it will kind of be like a stalemate or whatever. That's just kind of how I see things happening. However, this is one of those things that's like more, oh, I want this to happen, than, oh, I think this is going to happen. I mean, it definitely could happen, and it's the kind of direction, if I was writing it, where I would take it. However, different people have different visions. So, but judging on like the plot of like Volume 4, I think this will definitely be some kind of conflict that Ruby will have to deal with, and I think it will be more triggered by like Crow dying than anyone else. Her uncle, who she's really close to, except for maybe Yang. But like we know, like it's guaranteed that Ruby, Yang, Weiss, and Blake, and even Jean, it's guaranteed that those 5 people won't die until like the final battle. Like, it's pretty much they are safe until the final battle, pretty much. I mean, maybe not Jean, but definitely Team RWBY for sure. Anyway, so dealing with like Oscar, I have no idea where they're gonna take Oscar's character. He has like all the minds, all the experience of Osmond and all of Osmond's like past selves, if you will. So he has like tons of stuff there, but he's not like a fighter, and it's just, I don't know like what role he's gonna have. I mean, maybe he'll have the role of revealing like some truths of characters, but like he could reveal everything this arc to them, and there'd be no more really. There'd be some mystery, but there wouldn't be that much mystery. So it's just like, I don't know his role in this whole thing. He's kind of a wild card to me personally. I don't know where they're gonna take that. And dealing with Ren and Nora, I think at this point they should confirm that Ren and Nora are a couple. They should have like a small scene, a couple minutes long or a minute long or whatever, where we see Ren and Nora on a date, maybe acting awkward that they're on a date or whatever. That couple needs to be 100% confirmed at this point. I mean, it's a couple that probably 90 to 99% of the fan base agrees with. And after last volume, it's kind of highly implied that they got together, but they just need to confirm it with like a date or like a kiss or something, like, in my personal opinion. But they might not do that. But I don't see Ren and Nora becoming too important in this story plot, just because Ren was like a star in like volume 4, and I don't foresee like Ren and Nora really being that important with in like the near future. In the far future, yeah, they're gonna give more time, but like in this next volume, I don't foresee it. One last character that I almost forgot was Tyrion. I think it's almost obvious that he's gonna go after the Spring Maiden, and I think it's like implied that Raven's kind of looking out for the Spring Maiden because of her conversation with Crow. So I think like Tyrion is going to fight Raven at some point during this volume, and probably Yang's going to be there. Just throwing that out there. See, am I forgetting any other characters? Oh yeah, one last character I forgot about was Cinder. I don't foresee her being that important to the Mr. arc. I think she might come in at the end of it, and she might fight RWBY, or that will happen in Vacuo, or like in between Mr. and Vacuo. I mean, if they go to Vacuo, which I think it's more likely that they go to Vacuo to Atlas, because Atlas has been so built up. I think it's going to be the final, like, it's going to be the final arc before the final battle, if you will. It's going to be the final place conquered. I just foresee that, since there's so much build up to Atlas. But that's just kind of my opinion. But I think Cinder will either come in at the very end of this arc, like the final battle, or she'll come in like after, when they're traveling to the next place, or during the next arc. She'll be important. The next, either Vacuo or Atlas. I think it's gonna be Vacuo, where she'll play like a significant role. I don't foresee this arc being that important. Same with Mercury and Emerald, unfortunately, but that's just how it's gonna go. Neo's probably gonna be there in Mistral. I don't know if she's gonna play that important role. She'll probably play something. And there's definitely gonna be new characters, like Team Sun, excluding Sun. So like Neptune and them are gonna be there. So what role they play and how important it is, I'm not that sure. I don't foresee it being that important. They're gonna be there. They're gonna help out. They're more like supporting characters, really. Anyway, so that's my predictions for RWBY Volume 5. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.